The Guru's production, where we break down sports not for the everyday fans but from a true guru's perspective. Stay tuned for our deep dive today.
Welcome to a new episode of the Guru Perspective. I'm your host, the Guru himself. Just wanted to break down a few things and talk about what was going on in basketball. And I would like to say first and foremost, before I really get into this, it's been pretty good, man, as far as round one. Usually the first round won't be that good. It'd be a lot of blowouts, a lot of, okay, we expect this team to do this, but it was the exact opposite this year. Speaking of, let me start off by saying the Boston Celtics had a 3-1 lead, and they had their foot on the Philadelphia 76ers throat. I thought that series was just about over with. Philadelphia won the game. I said, okay, it doesn't matter. Then they won again, and I said, okay, now it's something going on right now. I'm not really feeling too comfortable about this series. And then when Jason Tatum was out, more or less it's just precautionary reasons. This brother did just come back early from Achilles injury, which I feel like most times with the Achilles, you can't play with that. Most times it take a whole year to really heal, but he came back sooner than what we expected. He came out and he played phenomenal at the end of the year. It was just too late to try to catch up and get the number one seed because it was already signed, sealed, delivered to the Detroit Pistons. Then they went on and they played the 76ers, and I was just surprised when it was 3-3. And then all of a sudden they was at home. I said, okay, Boston should handle business at home. Wrong. Jason Tatum was out. And when he was out, that would just change the complexity of the game. And Boston fell short. Jaylen Brown basically was upset, and I know that he was rightfully upset. He talked about flopping with Embiid and different things that was going on. No, man, you guys had a 3-1 lead, and you squandered that, man. You basically just threw it to the wolves. I can't give you any credit on this, Jaylen. And I'm a fan of yours, Jaylen Brown, but all the excuses and stuff going on, man, you need to cut that, man. Y'all lost. You win like men, you lose like men. Bottom line. Therefore, we had the 76ers going up against the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks handled business with Atlanta. They won the first two games at home convincingly, and then Atlanta won two. And then I was surprised because they got beat really bad, and it just surprised me how bad they got beat, how lopsided it was. And that's when I was saying, okay, I feel like now it's time for the Knicks to move on, and they did just that. Atlanta has so much good talent and youth on that team. They had C.J. McCollum, a lot of good players that I felt like would be a good matchup for the Knicks. And then the Knicks turned it on at the end. That series ended 4-2. The Lakers series surprised me because the Lakers went up. Of course, Durant was out injured most of the time. When they were up 3-1, I said, okay, they're about to do a gentleman's sweep. Not so fast. The Houston Rockets came in, made a game. They won a game and made it 3-2. And when they won that game, they went to L.A. And I said, okay, L.A. is about to stop playing with them and finally end this. They ended up winning the series, and they had won 4-2. Okay, that was some of the first round stuff. But then I'm going to just be honest that series with OKC and the Phoenix Suns, I feel like Devin Booker didn't have as much help as I would like him to have. But it didn't really matter because he was up against Oklahoma City Thunder, the reigning defending champion. So at this point, let me just get to it. They swept those guys of this world in the discussion. Okay. And then you had the Cleveland series. That was really good. I thought that at first that they was going to close that series out and blow them out, when it was 2-0. The Raptors came home, made a series out of it. Cleveland won when they went back home. Then the Raptors, man, that was a hell of a shot by R.J. Barrett. The game was close at first, but no, they were actually blowing out the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I said, okay, this is something I wasn't expecting, especially without Brandon Ingram. And they made it a series without Brandon Ingram. I was a little surprised, when they won that game, too. It was crazy because I was thinking, yeah, man, they messed up. And I feel like Cleveland's about to move on. That shot by R.J. Barrett when he was open, it was crazy. It was a Kawhi Leonard-ish type shot when he shot it from the side, the three-pointer, and then it bounced and went in. It was the same, but it was like a center three-pointer. And when he shot that center three-pointer, it was just amazing because it went up, it hit the rim, And I said, oh man, they about to lose like this, but it went up in the sky and it went up for a long time, like those old school 80s movies when the time be like 0 on the clock and then the ball go up and it finally go in and everybody cheering. It was one of those scenarios, man, and Toronto was rocking. I still wasn't confident because they didn't have Brandon Ingram going into game 7. And that made the difference. Brandon Ingram being injured definitely was an X factor to me that I feel like why Cleveland moved on. It was a good matchup. But at the same time, got to give credit where credit is due. Cleveland now is moving on. It was 2 game 7s that day, too. So let me get down to it. The Pistons was down 3-1. And I was one of the people who was thinking, ain't no way in hell the way they're playing that they'll be able to come back from this. They won at home. I said, okay, that was what you're supposed to do. They won at 93-79. Then they turned around. They won and surprisingly won when they played. And, I was just surprised more than anybody because I was talking about like the season was over when they were down like 24-25 at the half. So what do you expect? You expect me to say they're going to win being 25 down and they couldn't even really hit, no shots of their lives depended on it. I'm going to be one of the people who say I'm man enough to say I didn't think they were going to come back from that series. And they proved me extra wrong. Not only did they prove me wrong, I was proud they proved me wrong because my slogan is when we're doing bad, sometimes I just feel like the teams let me down. But at this point, I said, yeah, man, I'm a win and I'm a lose with my teams, and I'm gonna just keep it at that and be man about it. But it was crazy because they just start chipping off at that lead. My boy Quentin hit me up, my boy E-Buck, and my boy Mo. Everybody started making fun of me. Then they wanted to poke me. Then like, hey, they only down 10, they down 4, they down 2. The game's tied. They up, man. We won. I said, okay, that was what they were supposed to do. No disrespect. You're the number 1 seed. You're playing the 8th seed. I feel like if Wagner was playing, it would have been a little bit more scarier for us at this point because they put all the pressure on Paolo Banchero and they didn't have the score outside of Wagner, and that definitely hurt them. But at this point, I just look at it and feel like the grit that the Pistons team showed me, the tenacity, the fight, and everything that they put up with to actually get to this, I have to give them credit where credit is due, man. And this is what Detroit teams is all about. I feel like at one point the Lions lost their grit last year, but don't want to get into that. I feel like this team has grit. I want to see what they're going to do, and I want to see how both teams are going to come out and lay the groundwork with this series coming up right now because it's going to be an interesting series. I feel like Evan Mobley is a pretty good big, and he shoots too many threes, in my opinion. But then I actually like, too, Jared Allen. I think he's old school. Under the afro and just the way he played, he reminds me of 70s, 80s throwback. I love the way he hold himself and hold his ground and the player he is and the player he's become. But at the same time, like I said, Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Durham's going to have their hands full. I really want to see what Jalen Durham do this series because he definitely didn't play like he was an improved player or doing the 2010, like the double-doubles per night. I didn't see that in him. I was a little disappointed in him, and I know the whole thing with him and Angel Reese, man, that's nipped in the bud, and that's in the past now. I want him to focus on being a better player and helping his lineup. Because you got 2 bigs, and they're not going to be playing with you in this round in the semifinals. So I just want to see how we step up, how he faced the adversity, and what he do in this second round now. That's all I want to see. I want to see how he step up because, if you told me Tobias Harris was going to be that guy who was going to be the Robin to Kay Cunningham's Batman, I wouldn't have believed that, man. And to see how he came out in that last game, they just basically made a statement. He had 32 points and 12 assists, man. And Tobias had like 20 some odd points, but it was just he averaged 20 points, 2010, and I wasn't expecting that from him. But Unc stepped up for us, man, and we love you for it. So thank you for your performance. It was a cool day in Detroit too to see all the Pistons from the past. Vinnie Johnson, Isaiah. You had my man Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton. You had Casey, the coach. It was some everybody there, man. And I love the vibe, man. I feel like they needed a better vibe there because it didn't feel like they had the energy that they needed before in the games that we played. I just want to see what they do tonight. So I'll be giving my predictions for the two games tonight too as well, and telling you about what happened just recently. Okay, and we're going to start off now. And we're going to get to the game that just happened last night. Some pretty good games, and you may ask me, Jalen Brunson scored 27 of his 35 points in the first half, and the Knicks thumped the 76ers. I felt like after beating Boston that they were going to actually come out there guns a swinging. Plus, I like the matchup with Maxey, and then you have VJ Escom. I feel like with those guys, man, that they was going to really step it up and do some damage. I didn't feel like they did what they were supposed to do. And there was too many threes shot unnecessarily. And I feel like they were missing and New York was making, and they was clicking on all cylinders. You had Cat who was hot, and then Jalen Brunson was the hot hand. Like I said, 27 of the 35 points. Really shocker too to me, because I feel like this was going to be a good matchup. Yes, even though it's in New York and they just came off of game 7, the 76ers, I still feel like they're going to bounce back and it's going to be a good series. But that score didn't indicate it, though. That score was 137-98, and an embarrassing loss, and the game 1 of the semifinals. But besides that, it was still a lot of close and competitive games at this point. And I want to get into that Spurs game with Minnesota because it shocked the hell out of me. I had to get up early because I had to get up for my aquatherapy and take care of business. And when I looked up, I said, okay, let me see what's going to happen right now. I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen with this San Antonio, Minnesota series, because of the fact is, say what you want to say about my man's Rudy Gobert, but he held his own. Rudy Gobert said, you know what? I'm tired of everybody saying I'm soft. I looked at Rudy Gobert and always thought he was soft for the longest, but then you got to give credit where credit is due. Him being a defensive player doesn't mean he's soft. A lot of times he got a lot of shellacking because people will come at him at all costs. You either going to win or lose. And he's been pretty much 50-50 at that point. But a lot of times he got embarrassed with some of the moves, like Russell Westbrook dunked on him one time. It's probably one of the best dunks I've seen from a little guard against a person who's a center. So that's why I was thinking he was soft for a while. And it showed. Not now. Not now. I ain't going to say that at this point. He shut down Joker, man. Nikola Jokic, he embarrassed him in that last round. And I feel like Rudy Gobert play was the reason why they advanced. They went up 3-1. And I said, okay, this series is just about over. And then, Denver, I thought, was going to get back into it because they didn't have Anthony Edwards and they didn't have Dante DiVincenzo. People said, you could scratch out DiVincenzo. It didn't matter. But, yeah, his three-pointers and the way he come out, and if he could get hot on any given day, can help them out and boost what they were doing. Ayo Dosunmu got hurt, and I said, okay, yeah, now it's really a problem of him and they're going to be out. I think this is going to be to the point where either Denver can possibly come back or make it a series. They didn't let that happen. Big ups to Minnesota for not allowing that to happen. And you had your stars like Julius Randle, Jaden Daniels and guys like that, Naz Reid. They stepped up, man, and they played and they did what they had to do to go to this next round. Let's get to the game. Like I said, Anthony Edwards had 18 points, so we didn't expect him to return. We thought that brother was going to sit out. He said, if I have to limp out there, I'm going to play. And that's exactly what he did. That brother balled out, man. Just really shows the guts and the tenacity and what he feels like he needs to do right now to become a champion. We already feel like you're one of the better players in the game at such a young age, but the way he stepped up and the way he took this team to this victory, man. When they stunned San Antonio, man, it was 104-102, and Rudy Gobert did a hell of a job. I think the whole team collectively, they bully balled Victor because he's still light. You can call him light in the ass, light in the behind, or whatever you want to call him. He's a lightweight dude. So they bullied him, man, and they put a lot of pressure. They was bumping him, and they basically was physical with him. The physicality right now was something I don't think he was able to expect, or he wasn't expecting it. I think he'll be more prepared this next game, though. I feel like when I seen him play, I was stunned, man, because I mean, damn, the guy had a triple double, man, just like, and it didn't even look excited. He had 11 points. That part wasn't really the big excited part to me, but he had 15 rebounds and 12 blocks. He made history, man. He had like 7 blocks at the half. So I know he was going to get more than that, but 12 blocks and you get a triple double like that, 11, 15, and 12. I was saying if he would have at least scored 15 or even 16 points, we wouldn't even be talking about this right now. We'd be talking about how great the San Antonio Spurs are. And he didn't have his best game. They didn't have his best game, and they only still lost by 2. But then you got to give credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves because they came into San Antonio and got that game won, and they played like they wasn't afraid. So I appreciate seeing that. I like the grit of what they did and the physicality of the NBA playoffs, and they're letting them play a little bit more physical now. I just want to see how this series evolve. I still feel like it's going to be a series where San Antonio might still possibly come out on top, but then I can see it that they don't come out on top. It just can take an injury from, Victor Wembanyama again, like a concussion. He can't afford to be hurt and miss any games in this series like he did with the Portland series. I didn't really talk about that series, but it wasn't really much important to talk about. Portland won the game when he got concussed. And I think it was a 3-1 series. It took Scoot Henderson to make like 32 points and 31 points to get that game. That next game, Victor didn't play. They won that game. It was a gentleman's sweep, basically. They won that series 4-1. That's the one I didn't really talk about. It wasn't really much to talk about. And to lose that game 1, though, was very serious and it was crucial. And I want to see where this goes right now in the playoffs. So I just want you guys to bear with me because I want to know who you feel like. Hit me in my comments and let me know who you feel like the best teams are, because I still feel like, and not trying to be disrespectful, whoever comes out of the East is going to have their hands full with the San Antonio Spurs or OKC. And at this point, Minnesota, because they're playing real good. And I'm hearing they're going to the East soon, possibly with some of the expansion teams that's coming up, like Seattle's supposed to be getting another team. I don't know what they're calling them, but it's supposed to be 2 more expansion teams coming. So that means they're saying that with those 2 expansion teams, that Minnesota and the Grizzlies supposed to be coming to the East. So, yeah, I really want to see what happened in this series because right now that's going to be a tough out for anybody, them coming to the East. But, yeah, on top of that, I just feel like right now I want to give some predictions, too, before I get into some of my stats that I wanted to talk about. I want to get into the games that they're going to play tonight. Those are the games I'm looking at right now. And I'm saying the Cleveland Cavaliers at Detroit, they have us as a 3.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with Detroit because we're at home, and I hope that they keep their momentum. This game can go anyway, but that's why I feel like it's a 3.5 because I just feel like Cleveland's still a good team. And this matchup is going to be a good matchup. Like I said, it's going to be Stu against Mosley against Evan Mobley. And then it's going to be Jalen Durham versus Jaron Allen. That's going to be a hard series, man, because they got some good bigs over there. But I want to see what Donovan Mitchell do against Cade. That's another matchup. It's going to be some stuff that we have to endure and look for. But I'm looking and seeing how these matchups going to pan out. But I'll take us at home right now. And they better, man, because they can't come out flat like they did before in that Orlando series, But they did come back, but unfortunately, too, at the, dismissal of Jamal Mosley, because I knew that he was going to be gone after blowing that 3-1 lead and not even making it past the first round in a while. So, yeah, I knew that was going to be a problem. But I'll take us with the 3.5 at home. Lakers and Thunder, I'll take that 15.5. It'd probably be worse than that, but I'm just being nice right now. No disrespect to Laker fans. I love LeBron myself and what he's did and what he's contributed to the NBA for this time. But I think he's getting past his time. I believe he's going to hold his ground. I believe LeBron's going to be LeBron. I want to know who else going to step up. Will Reeves play? Will Luca play? That'll give me more of what I can see out of this series, because if them two play, it's going to be a little better than what people expect. I feel like too much LeBron or putting too much pressure on LeBron will definitely make this series go past faster than when it all actually could, So, yeah, I want to see what's going to happen, who's going to be the players, who's going to be playing, and how they're going to step up against OKC, because everybody looking at them like they're going to be one of the teams that come out of the West, but you never know. It can be an injury here or there. They can change the complexity of everything. But I'm going to take that 15.5, though, because I'm not an idiot. And at this point, I want to talk about some things as far as stats go. Let me get into my stat book for you guys. Jalen Brunson has scored at least 15 points in all 49 playoff games of his Knicks career. Only two players had longer 15-point streaks to begin their playoff career with a single team. Michael Jordan went 179 straight with the Bulls, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with 57 straight with the Milwaukee Bucks. Jared Allen scored a record 22 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 stocks. That's steals and blocks in the Cavs Game 7 win. The last NBA player to reach all of those stats in the Game 7 was Kevin Garnett in 2004 against the Sacramento Kings in the Western Semis. Joel Embiid of the Sixers is the first player in NBA history to score 100 plus points in a playoff series despite missing the first 3 games. That was something I was impressed with. When Joel Embiid's healthy, he's one of the most dangerous players in the game. The Magic are the only NBA team in the shot clock era. Y'all gonna like this one. Since 1954-1955 to have a 20-point halftime lead, but then failed to score 20 points in the second half, regular season or postseason. So they made history, and I don't think that that suited well in us winning that Game 7 and, moving on with, them and their coach. That's when I said, yeah, it might be a problem. I'm keeping that coach. The Detroit Pistons are the first team in NBA history to come back from 20-plus points at the half to stave off elimination. Go Pistons. April 29, 2026 marks the second time in NBA history 2 former number 1 overall picks, Cade Cunningham and Paolo Banchero, each scored 45-plus points in the same game, regular or postseason. The others came in January the 14th, 1961, when Elgin Baylor had 45 and Oscar Robertson had 45. And they did so in 123 to 114 Lakers win. And last but not least, I've talked about this one already. Victor Wembanyama recorded a historic 12 blocks in the game against Minnesota Timberwolves on May the 4th, setting a record, an NBA single-game playoff record. He also added 11 points and 15 rebounds, achieving a triple-double in a game loss. Like I said, that's incredible to get 12 blocks, 15 rebounds, and 11 points. But I have to give credit where credit is due, because Rudy Gobert has been playing phenomenal as far as a defender and stopping these guys right now. I really enjoyed that game. I want to know how long it's going to last. I believe, to be honest, you call me crazy if you want, Rudy Gobert is going to keep him from scoring a lot of crazy points. I wouldn't be surprised if he don't score a 30-point game in the series, possibly 20 or something like that. But 30, I think that'll be pushing it, because I just feel like with the length and just how good of a defender Gobert is, he got a little size on him too. And Victor's still light, and he's a skinny dude. He's going to need to add on some pounds to really go pound for pound with Rudy Gobert. But like I said, man, you can never, question him and what he's going to do, because I still feel like this is going to be a good series. 2 defensive players of the year. I want to see how this goes and see how this ends. I still have, and no disrespect to the Timberwolves, San Antonio going out of this like in Game 6. That being said, I would like to say thank you all for showing love and chiming in to all of us and our network, man. The Gurus Production and the Nighthawk Network. And I would like to give a shout out to everyone in the Nighthawk Network. Appreciate you guys, and appreciate everyone who helps the shows and give us the love and support. Appreciate you guys giving love to our brand and just being there when we need you guys to give us the love and support, the clicks, the follows, and just basically giving us your love and gratitude. We thank you all. Y'all know who you are. I can't just say one or two names. I want to say collectively for everybody who shows their love and support to the Guru Perspective and all the other shows on the network. Thank you. The way you can reach me too as well is on Instagram, Whoovi, that's WHOOVI. I put a lot of our brand and a lot of our promos up on there. And of course, on Facebook, you can catch me as Sports Guru to You. I put a lot of breaking news and just basically give you all the scores and what's going on around all the leagues. And of course, on TikTok, I'm Hugh.Lee6, where I put a lot of the highlight reels, football, basketball, etc., and give my promos as well. If you want me to talk about some other sports besides, football, basketball, baseball, etc., you can hit me up in my email too at sportsguru2you@gmail.com, or you can just hit me up on YouTube at Hugh Lee. I'd like to say thank you all once again for all the love and support. And until then, I will see you guys with some more news or see you with some more of the Guru's Perspective next week. Thank you and have a blessed day. Until then.